Next slide. When the universe was younger, some galaxies produced a lot more radiation than galaxies do today. A typical galaxy shines with the energy from billions of stars and is tens of thousands of light years or more across. A peculiar group of galaxies are extremely luminous but very compact. The light from these active galaxies is produced by a strange process in the centers of the galaxies. Some blue star-like objects were discovered in the early 1960s that also produced a lot of radio energy. Stars put out most of their energy in the visible and ultraviolet bands. These blue star-like objects also had broad, fat emission lines. Stars have narrow absorption lines. These blue star-like objects have greatly redshifted spectral lines, which the Hubble Lemaitre law tells us that they must be at great distances from us. These quasi-stellar radio sources, or quasars for short, have luminosities that are hundreds to thousands of times more than an ordinary galaxy, but they can change their luminosity as quickly as within a few days. That means the power source is very small compared to a galaxy. Recall that nothing can change its brightness faster than the time it takes light to travel across it. So the light fluctuation timescale gives us the maximum size possible for the object. The quasars are a few light days to at most few light months across, which means they are at most about the size of our solar system. Remember the size scale model, with Pluto's orbit being the size of a quarter and the Milky Way being the size of the western United States. The quasar's power source is extremely bright but extremely small. Normal galaxies shine from starlight, so a normal galaxy spectrum is going to look like the normal thermal continuous spectrum that rises up to a peak and falls off at the short wavelength end. Active galaxies and quasars shine from something that produces a lot of energy in a huge range of wavelengths, from X-rays to radio, with the same power at all those wavelengths, and the spectrum has no peak. The spectrum is decidedly non-thermal. It looks like the non-thermal spectrum we see in our high-energy particle accelerators when charged particles spiral around magnetic field lines at nearly the speed of light. Next slide. Quasars are supercharged active galaxies with very bright cores, as these early pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope show very clearly. Smaller scale versions of quasars are shown here. The Seyfert galaxies are spiral galaxies with very luminous nuclei that produce a non-thermal continuous spectrum and broad emission lines, so there must be some gas swirling around at over 10,000 kilometers per second. Radio galaxies are usually elliptical galaxies that produce 1,000 to 1,000,000 times more radio energy than a normal galaxy from their cores, and huge extended radio lobes formed by jets of electrons squirting from the compact center that spread out as the electron jet hits the intergalactic medium. Next slide. Here's the model of what we think is going on in the galaxy nuclei that unifies all of the various observations. The power source is the accretion disk around a supermassive black hole at the galaxy's core. Our viewing angle from the Earth determines the type of active galaxy we're going to see. The light is coming from the material that is outside the black hole's event horizon before it crosses the event horizon. The huge amount of radiation pouring out from the accretion disk would be enough to blow all of the accreting gas away if the black hole did not have enough mass to keep the gas spiraling inward. This means masses of hundreds of millions to billions of times that of the Sun. Here are some observations of the compact cores. NGC 4261 is a radio galaxy formed by a compact source at the core of an elliptical galaxy. The compact source has a dusty ring surrounding a hot gas disk. The black hole is too far away from us to see any black spot. There's a link to a video showing what you'd see if you had a super-duper Hubble Space Telescope. As you fly over the gas disk, you'll see that the gas piles up just outside the event horizon, and that gas is what constrains other gas and electrons to flow outward along jets. We've known for several decades that the giant elliptical galaxy M87 has a jet squirting out from its nucleus. The Hubble Space Telescope was able to see the swirling gas around a compact object with about 6.5 billion solar masses. Below that is the image of the supermassive black hole on the left, released by the Event Horizon Telescope in April 2019. In the sequence of images, the observed images is on the left. A supercomputer magnetohydrodynamics general relativity simulation of the light surrounding a 6.5 billion solar mass black hole is in the middle of the strip, and what the simulation would look like if it was blurred to the same resolution as the Event Horizon Telescope. Matches up pretty well. Active galaxies remain active for only a short time, astronomically speaking, and we see a lot more of them at great distances from us than nearby. That's because as we look to very great distances, we're seeing the universe as it was long ago when things were closer together. There were many more collisions going on that dumped gas and dust to fuel the supermassive black holes at the centers of the galaxies. The Hubble Ultra Deep Field is like a core sample through the universe. You see bright, nice-looking galaxies of today's universe, and super faint, very far away galaxies of ancient history, and everything in between in this image that took 278 hours staring at a tiny patch of the sky. This is a plot of the active galaxy numbers plotted versus the time after the start of the universe expansion. You can think of it also as the look-back time, where the Milky Way is at the arrow labeled now, and all the quasars are billions of light years away. This clearly shows the universe was different long ago than it is now. The rise in activity at the early times means there were a lot more active galaxies long ago when galaxies were closer together, so they collided more often than now. You also see a downturn at the very earliest times because the universe was too young to make galaxies, and therefore no galaxy activity was possible. The universe has changed, and there was a beginning, which is the subject of the cosmology lecture.